Tower Traverso Tree Service, Walnut Creek Magazine, Pam Kessler, and Cheap Pete's Frame Factory Outlet for making today possible. Thank you all very much. Also, this year we had our jury of 5. Joining me, recurring judges that have done this in the past, Scott Coates and Bill Wood, and we have 2 new jurors that joined us, one former and one current design review commissioner, Mike Fotheringham, landscape architect, and Joseph Gorney, architect. Thank you all very much for taking the time to review all these projects. If you can give them a round of applause. Thank you. And in addition to Mike Fotheringham, the Action for Beauty Council has 4 other members that we want to acknowledge in putting this program together. Janet Abrams, Brian Murphy, our former mayor Sue Rainey, and council member Cindy Silva. Amazing help to get this program together. Thank you all very much. I also would like to introduce our current and former council members, and I think I would have you briefly stand if that won't interrupt your meal so we can acknowledge you, and I'll run through the list. Well, first of all, Mayor Bob Simmons up in the podium level. Our former mayor and council member Gary Skrell. Former mayor and council member Cindy Silva. Our former mayor, Gwen Regalia. Former mayor, Charlie Abrams. And I'd like to introduce our city manager, Ken Nordoff. This year, we are fortunate enough to have a very special guest who will be our master. Oh, I'm sorry. Bob? Oh, Carol Ferrini from Lafayette. Yes, you're welcome to in Walnut Creek. Thanks, Carol. Great. This year we're very honored to have a special master of ceremonies. I know we had to get rid of the old one. He just didn't have what it took anymore. So I'd like to introduce this master of ceremonies for this year, John King. And I'm sure you know John is the San Francisco Chronicle's urban design critic. Joined the paper in '92 and has been in his current post since 2001. And prior to that, John was the regional Contra Costa columnist for 4 years, covering stories out here. John has been honored by groups including California Preservation Foundation, the Society of Professional Journalists, the California chapters of the American Institute of Architects, and the American Planning Association. He's an honorary member of the American Society of Landscape Architects, yay, Landscape Architects. And in 2006, he was the first recipient of the Jean Bird Award for Urban Journalism from the Urban Communication Foundation. John's been kind of hanging around town here for a number of decades. He kind of writes about us a lot. If you've been finding his articles about Broadway Shopping Center, Neiman Marcus, and some other great projects. So we're delighted that he's with us here today. John, would you come on up and join me? Thank you.
Hey, thanks. I know a number of you in the room from my time at the Chronicle and things. So when I was out here full time, and I was actually at the Contra Costa Times before that, so it's fun to be out. I also actually grew up in Walnut Creek out near Countrywood Shopping Center, though my parents bought the house before there was a shopping center there. And so it's kind of fun being out to just kind of oversee the presentation of the awards today, because kind of looking through some of the things I do not know, or I kind of went to acquaint myself with, and other things that kind of recognize, but I found myself saying, oh, that's where whatever was. Having grown up here, it's kind of enough to see the layers of change. And, obviously that plays out across the culture and across every aspect of society, but it also plays out architecturally, just the buildings that get taken down for new ones, or that get reclad, or that get floors added to them, so on and so forth. And so I like the idea that there is a group like this that's been giving out awards and continues to, because the strength of a city like Walnut Creek is that it has good bones, and the good bones have been added to. And as someone who lives in Berkeley and works in San Francisco, I hear all sorts of things about Walnut Creek, and I frequently rush to its defense, having grown up out here, to explain that it's not all, Broadway shopping center and things. But of course, they're founding their negative impression on their trips to Broadway shopping center. So they kind of come out to shop, and then they resent the fact that they're coming out to shop, and that it's not foggy, and that there are no panhandlers. So clearly you're doing something wrong. But it is interesting just physically, and I'm kind of keying my extremely brief remarks as much to the commission members or elected officials. I mean, there is a real challenge in how do you just kind of keep the ongoing building of a place. And, when I look at kind of the things that to me mark Walnut Creek physically, it's very interesting. I mean, to me, almost like kind of the key, the anchor in a very real way, as someone who is still out here a lot in things. Shell Ridge is such a physical anchor. There's something that's not a building at all, except, for the gate you walk through to go in from various directions. But it is such a visual definer, but then also, it's an experiential definer. You go in, and it just kind of reshapes your knowledge of the place. But then also, every time I come back downtown and haven't been here for a little while, there are two modern buildings I check on to make sure they're still here, one on Locust and one on, I think it may be Bonanza. It's a little cleaner that's made out of concrete block. And it's just striking to me that they are buildings that I would guess many of you in this room would say they're pretty hideous. But they're actually well-built, solid buildings from the 60s, and they're purely honest because they're buildings that say it's 1964, and we're a growing suburb, and we're taking off, and we need a cleaner. We need a, little shop with stores on the ground floor and offices above. And it's just kind of interesting looking at them because there's just a real basic, you can kind of read the community in them. The community of a certain time, and the fact they're still there lets you have a measuring point to go against. And the third one I want to mention is a rather recent building that's on Civic Drive across from City Hall. I think it was built for a bank, but it's now a real estate, Rockcliffe Realtor. And it's funny because that building is such a, again, if you know Walnut Creek, the richness of the brickwork is a throwback to things like the building, well, now I was going to say next to us, but it's right here. And so it's the kind of thing that on the one hand, it's a new investment in the city, but it's also a very durable one that also ties back. And so the reason for saying this before going to the awards, and what I like about some of the award winners today, is that a city like Walnut Creek, a downtown like downtown Walnut Creek, it isn't just a stage set. It is very much kind of a mosaic of the parts. And there's a real challenge to making sure the parts are good when you put them in place, and then that you add to them in good creative ways that kind of build on what the place can be. Because it always changes. I did a story earlier this year on downtown Walnut Creek and was stunned to learn that the peace sign office tower, that I was a little kid at the time, but that'll date me, that the office tower down by Kaiser is going to be torn down for seismic reasons and housing built, and the housing will be not even half the height. But seeing that kind of coming down is a reminder that cities do change course, and that building, the towers, signal a whole different vision of Walnut Creek than the one that was embraced. So I want to really just kind of end the remarks there and then start to shift over to the presentation of the awards. But I just want to urge everybody, there is a real challenge to a city like this. It's popular, it's prosperous, and lots of people want to come here. It is a challenge to all of you just to figure out kind of how do we allow for change, but also allow for change that adds layers rather than just substitutes one piece for the next. And what I like about a lot about these awards, there are new pieces that are very much additions to the landscape, and there are very creative reinterpretations of the landscape, and then also some things that are just kind of freshening up things that have been here all along. So what I want to do is kind of shift over right now to the awards, and the first one all I'll say is that it's not Shell Ridge, but I'm sure Shell Ridge has gotten an award at some point. So presenting the first two awards, which is the Special Recognition for Habitat Restoration and the Peg-Kovar Poppy Award, that's my only mistake of the day, I promise, is Brian Murphy. So if Brian can come up, okay. Very short cord. That's the one.
Thank you. One of the things that the Walnut Creek Action for Beauty Council has done for decades is we try to make examples out of what we like to see in the community, what we like to see more of. In this particular case, we bought open space back in 1974. The Walnut Creek Open Space Foundation has been doing restoration projects, oak planting in our open space. And today what we want to look at is all of the hours and hard work and weeding that went on to restore Bayberry Pond. So if Leslie Hunt, president of the Open Space Foundation, would come up here. Bayberry Pond is in the woodlands. It's at the end of Bayberry Drive. And you can, it's amazing what those people accomplished. And it was every Wednesday, or no, I'm sorry, it's a Tuesday group of mostly weeding and watering native plants. Leslie?
Thank you, Brian. You want me to say anything?
No,
or-
we don't have time.
All right, fine.
But thank you. But
Okay,
I'll-
thank you very much.
I'll,
We really appreciate it.
Anyway, what's important about Bayberry is if you look at the before and after pictures, to have a vision that you could change what that was, I mean, it's amazing. And the hard work that went in to create that vision. So this is a good example of when you see something really horrible, if you have a vision, you can change it. Next up is, thank you. Sorry. Next up, Peg Kovar was our an absolutely incredible lady in our community, one of our mayors, and did a lot of trend setting for women, not to mention what she did in the community. So we have an award that we don't give out very often on her behalf for people that do extraordinary things. In this case, Akalani's Ridge, we always thought that the ridge was safe because you can't develop the ridge. And a number of years ago, we found out that that wasn't so, that the highest peak of Akalani's Ridge was for sale. And we found out from the Secluded Valley Homeowners Association that they were trying to stop it and trying to get the property bought. They came to the Open Space Foundation, or now Mayor Bob Simmons was president of the Open Space Foundation, and a big collaborative effort started. And what this is an example of what happens when people work together and people bring different skill sets to solve the problem. So the Open Space Foundation started talking to people. Save Mount Diablo told us, nope, we can't help you, wrong side of the freeway. They introduced us to Linus Uckel, Muir Heritage Land Trust. We are getting help from East Bay Regional Park District, and all of you can thank yourselves for voting yes on Measure WW, which provided funding for this project. So, we had a homeowners association, Open Space Foundation, Muir Heritage Land Trust, City of Lafayette contributed money, Walnut Creek contributed money, as did the Park District. So if we could get somebody from the Homeowners Association up here, from Open Space Foundation, City of Walnut Creek, City of Lafayette, Muir Heritage Land Trust, and I don't know that there's anybody from the Park District. Lioness?
Thank you, Brian.
Sorry, Leslie. No, you get this and give him one. And I believe this is the first open space that City of Lafayette bought. Anyway, if you have an opportunity, it's off the Mount Diablo Brianni's Trail, and it's now named the Gary Bogue Trail to get to the top of that. The incredible effort that went into people working together to put this together, how do we finance it, the fundraising and so forth. City of Carol, this is your first open space that City of Lafayette owns, is that correct? Yeah, okay, Lafayette's first acquisition. Walnut Creek couldn't buy it because it's in Lafayette. Very complicated. Anyway, it's now preserved forever for everybody to enjoy. Thank you. Bob, we need pictures. Leslie. Over, I need a picture. Okay.
Amid all the drama. And actually, I'm going to speak up. I think a point forgot to be made by Terry that all of you who win awards are incredibly valued. However, the program is so tight you don't get to speak. You get to take the award and listen to the applause. So, speaking of the awards, the next two awards are for Public Art and Streetscape Art, and they will both be presented by Terry Camp.
Thank you, John. I had been reminded at the table that I had forgotten to introduce myself, so my name is Primo Facchini. I'm Terry Camp. And in absence of Mike Fotheringham, who actually had crafted the verbiage for the Public Art Award, he's been called away on business he couldn't get out of, so he's given me something to read on that behalf. So if you'll excuse me, I will read directly from Mike's notes in 12-point font without reading glasses. The jury recognizes two public art projects on Main Street that demonstrate appropriate artistic responses at many levels. The adaptive reuse of two water features that have graced the public realm in downtown Walnut Creek for many years offers mystery, surprise, and delight. Each fountain has been remade in unique fashion, resulting in functioning water features with magical effects, one subtle and one not so. The qualities of the materials and the sound of moving water are coupled with artistic expression that invite deeper observations. As the jury assembled at the head, one passerby enthusiastically expressed delight as she connected with art in her own way. Each jury member discussed our own unique interpretation, even as we enjoyed the sight and sound of flowing water. Both public art installations have been executed with great care and attention to preserving the function of a water fountain while enhancing the urban character of Main Street. These projects are a result of successful collaboration of many public and private interests, and we commend the vision and execution of all those involved. As we recognize these two installations this year, we're also acknowledging several other public art installations on Main Street and express appreciation for business owners and city officials for enhancing the public realm in such creative ways. So in that event, if we can have the project sponsors come up and receive the Public Art Award. Barry Gordon, the City of Walnut Creek. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you very much. Is there a representative from Mechanics Bank here? Great. And the Downtown Business Association, I saw Brian. Great. Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much for all your participation in this great project. Come on, Brian. All right. You got to keep it going. All right?
Barry.
I'm sorry, I forgot the Wells Fargo representative. Pardon me? Well, then they don't get their picture taken. All right, John.
Streetscape Art.
Okay. And now on the, as mentioned in Mike Fotheringham's paragraph, we have the Streetscape Art Award. And I believe if I saw Joe Bologna around here, and again, Brian Hirahara. If you haven't seen this wonderful artwork on Broadway, the back of Sasso's restaurant, it's quite clever. It's the metal dog chasing a metal cat up a tree, a two-dimensional figure sitting on the bench. And Joe, I'm going to break protocol and ask you to give me 20 seconds on how this came to be.
It's all Brian's fault. Brian actually tried to take a problem, which was people hanging around that tree, smoking cigarettes and dropping things all over the ground, and turned it into a place that people would enjoy coming to and respect and contribute to the downtown. I think he's successful. It's quite a spot.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all very much, gentlemen.
Okay, the next award is for new commercial building, and the presentation will be by Bill Wood.
Thank you, John. Is a representative here from Dorito Brothers? This award for the Action for Beauty. The next award is for the new commercial building for this year, and it's for Dorito Brothers. And actually, 50 years ago, my father was ran the last dealership, Studebaker dealership in the United States, down in LA. And I used to spend probably 6-7 years from the time I was 7 or 8 up until I was about 13 at his dealership, going back into the bays, and they had Packards for sale. He was actually literally the last Studebaker salesman. So I have a lot of time spent in auto dealerships as a growing up as a child. And after going into the Dorito Brothers new facility on Main Street, it's amazing the state of the art of the entire facility. It's all automated. The architecture is something that'll probably in 50 years from today will be still state of the art. They did a fantastic job of not only executing their vision of what they kind of see as their representative of the next 40 or 50 years as Volkswagen, and also all the automation of the service bays inside is just so clean. I mean, I can't believe the difference in going back in those days in the early 60s in the Studebaker. Go back in the auto bays, you'd have to literally change your shoes when you got out of there and go back to the showroom. So for the best commercial building for last year, the Dorito Brothers on the Main Street, and I don't know if there's anybody here representing the project, but if there isn't, then we'll give them the awards when they contact us. All right. All right. All right, John.
Okay, the next award, shifting from new to old, is for commercial renovation, and the presenter is Scott Coates.
Thank you, John. I'll talk about the award in just a second, but since I have the microphone, I have something else to say. When I heard that our old colleague Tom Bassett couldn't be here this year, I thought I should remind us all of something that Tom used to say, and that is that this is not a superficial beauty contest or fashion show. He said, this is about home, and this is about recognizing people and projects that improve our home environment. And one of them that did that this year is renovation of a building on Main Street. And we can see some pictures. We just have the after pictures, but everybody probably remembers this building. One of the older buildings downtown, built in the late 30s, a Strom building, been around forever and was probably a little threadbare, I would say. So we welcome this renovation, thorough renovation, that kept the original facade articulation faithful to the building's original design, but upgraded it with some high quality finish materials, some really nice fenestration, and the big wood doors. And what you can't see here is what was done inside, which is to upgrade it seismically and to make it conform to building code exiting requirements. So now we have a nice looking, safe building in place of the one we had before. So we say good job. And Don, are you going to come up and accept the award? Thanks, good job. Yeah, we really liked it. Great project. Thank you.
And that's the whole issue of dating oneself, is that when I was a high school student at Ignacio Valley High School, the melting pot was in the ground floor space, and there was a Birkenstock dealership upstairs. And I never took the discount offered on the Birkenstocks because they were trying to get like high school kids to wear them, but I used to just ogle the leather hats that were very 70s, wide brim, you know, kind of head off to Marin things. So it's good to see the building get at least a third lease on life. The next award is the Architectural Design Award, and this will be presented by Joseph Gorney.
You're speaking of Terry Camp. Terry always talked about always looking at how buildings touch the sky and how they touch the ground. And I think the next building is one of the ones that's pretty successful with that. This is one building in town that was built last year that I think is kind of a gem, and it's sort of floating in a sea of a lot of, you know, stucco and plant-on foam details. This is a building that's really honest in its materials, it's timeless in its character, and it's really, really elegant in the execution. It's finished off a corner of the mall, yet it really does, I think, help connect the mall and Broadway Plaza to downtown, which is always really important for everybody in the Downtown Business Association and also at Design Review. This building, as everybody I think knows, had its share of battles. And Neiman Marcus was really persevering in fighting along with the city, to keep sort of outside influences from affecting our ability to design things and build things in our downtown. And even the design review process was not that easy. I was on design review at the time, and we had a lot of battles on this building along the way between retail and openness to the street. And I think that the balance of what they have now and the concessions that were made on both sides really made for a very elegant building. If you look, if you walk by that building, the quality of the glass, the artwork, the lighting, everything is really stellar on that building. And I think it really helps put our retail on the map outside of the region. At the time this was being done, nobody else was getting a brand new Neiman Marcus, only Walnut Creek. And despite the economy at that time and everything else, the building absolutely has no compromises. It's 86,000 square feet, which everybody thinks is really large, but in reality, it's a pretty small building for Neiman Marcus. And they've really had to be super efficient in the way they do things. I've walked the building with one of the heads of design in the building, and just to see how they subtly make changes to the building. And you know, there's one thing about it too, is that there's a real indoor-outdoor relationship to the building. If you look on the inside, the architecture of the inside, a lot of the materials that are on the outside appear on the inside. You can always see through the building. There's a lot of transparency in the building. There's incredible lighting details. Some of these little strip lights they did are just amazing. And you know, that's their whole thing, is that this customer experience. They want people to stay there. And even if you've ever been to the cafe, also the detail there is really exquisite. And the last thing I want to mention is the artwork, interior and exterior. You know, Ned Kahn's kinetic sculpture over both of the entrances, I think, really makes the building breathe. And the glass at nighttime when it's lit, I think, really animates Walnut Creek and the street. And if you go inside, obviously the butterflies, I think, really animate the center. And when light's coming into the atrium and it's reflecting off the butterflies, it just makes it an amazing piece of art that goes around the building and inside. And I think it's really stellar. And again, even there's lots of local artists in there. If you look around, there's people local, there's people from Sacramento, a lot of California art, and that was Stanley Neiman's vision was with the store and with art was always really critical to him. So I think again, it's a modern building, it's a little retro, but I think it's going to be timeless in the long run. So I don't know if anybody's here from Neiman Marcus today. They're getting ready for the big fashion show on Saturday. Okay, great.
And that's one where I actually know the architect was MBH, is that? Yeah, from Alameda. So the next award is the Urban Design Award, and Scott Coates will return to make the presentation.
Thanks again, John. Here's another project that we appreciate on a whole lot of levels. One is that we get a restaurant by a great restaurant team with a couple of fabulous places in San Francisco that is completely opposite of any corporate restaurant, and they did a great job here. We really liked the big sliding door, rolling glass doors that are on the end of Broadway. They provide a real nice visual openness to the end of the street there that used to be sort of a blank facade. And when those open up, you can see into one of the greatest interiors in the town. Seriously, you got to go see this if you haven't. It's artwork done by the owner's wife. And on the wall, you can see here are characters of the Brother Grimm fairy tales painted in tea on the wall. Don't see that every day. There's a bunch of different environments created inside the space. There's intimate seating on one side of the bar. There's a really nice open bar area, and then there's the bigger dining room. So you can sort of choose what kind of environment you'd like to be in. And the art is pervasive. It just goes everywhere. The little seating areas are divided with these dividers constructed of little tiny dioramas that are super clever that you could spend hours looking at. And I have to say that the jury was also very impressed with the menu and the cocktail list. So I encourage you to go if you haven't been. It's a really wonderful spot. And do we have someone to accept the award? Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Really great job. Scott, that's good.
Okay, we're racing through here, so the last award winner will get to talk for 20 minutes. But we're not quite there yet. So I want to have Bill Wood come back up, who will be presenting the Integration of Design Award.
Thank you, John. This award is an Integration Design Award based on the Seven Hills School, which is, if anyone has been to this campus, it's an extremely difficult site. It's on a hillside that's difficult to not only maneuver getting students around and trying to get parking areas to work, but it was well integrated into the original design of the building. And again, it's difficult to see it from the photographs, but it was probably one of the more difficult sites in Walnut Creek to be able to create a partial flat area, but it was terraced in numerous ways that really did a great job of integrating the campus together. And now it seems like it all comes together. If you've ever been up to the Seven Hills Schools campus, it's tough to find if you haven't been there before. And when you get up there, it's absolutely spectacular views. I mean, it's just probably the most inspirational place to learn and to spend time. And we give an award to the Seven Hills School this year for the best integration of that project because of the difficulty of the site and constraints it had on it. So is there anyone here that represents Seven Hills School? There you go. Thanks very much. That was great. Great job. Okay, I'll give you the mic back.
And so integration and design, I think the meaning of that is simply how do you fit the buildings into the site and all. So that's good. And the last regular award that will be presented is the Sustainable Design Award, a different sort of fitting things into the landscape. And Joe Gorney will return for that.
The toughest thing on this building is the name, I think, which is the Central Contra Costa Sanitary District Collection Systems Operation Department. And I knew I could not memorize that, so I had to make sure I wrote it down. And one of the things about this building is that the whole mission of their organization is environmental engineering and protecting the environment. And I think it's really key when a building like this, when the board decides that they want to go out and they want to do a building that is sustainable and goes further than what needs to be done. And really, the board really did their homework. I mean, they looked for a company that had courtyard experience, but that still had fresh ideas. And they found Kalpo, Hong, and Dong out of Sacramento. And I think they really, did well with hiring them to do it. I actually went back again to see the building a second time. I remember when it went through design review, we were really positive about it then, and I wanted to go through it again and see some of the details a second time. And the board really, looked at the cost of doing LEED and doing certification and decided gold certification was where they wanted to go. And they just decided it was worth the long-term benefits are worth the cost. Some of the things that they found is that doing analysis, they found that people are taking less sick time. And they said that, the green materials, the ventilation, the natural lighting, people like working there. People were proud of this building. They really felt good there. And they've integrated a gym and a big kitchen and a lot of other parts. The thing about green buildings is I think that decisions have to always work on two levels. For instance, the building has these really beautiful concrete stained floors that are just gorgeous, but they're also extremely easy to keep clean. And when you get people coming in their business and going over to the showers and walking through the building, you got to make sure you can clean it well. On site planning, they really looked at where they were going to put the building, and they decided to push it back on the site and push it into the hill. That gave them a lot more land to work with for trucks and to integrate other materials, but it also gave them a lot of helping with the cooling in the building, because a lot of the building just builds into the hill, and the warehouse down below stays quite comfortable. And third one is like in seismic safety. This is an emergency response building. It has to have immediate occupancy. So there can't be any damage. So if you look at the structure on the building, which the architect expressed on the inside, it's a really strong building and it looks it. And one of the things they tried to do to kind of have fun was that they tried to make it look like it was made out of old pipes. So they have all this exposed structure inside, and even the sign in the front is supposed to be looking like a clay pipe with the sign going through, which I thought was really kind of clever. And kudos to the city. They said Jeremy was extremely helpful, that the city felt they were part, that they felt that the city was part of the team in making this building happen. They even did things like solar heat in the warehouse to keep the floor warm. They have motorcycle and bike parking, and it was used. There were a lot of Harleys over there. A big ass fan in the warehouse, and that's the name of the company. That's not me. And this is an early C3 stormwater control building, and they use permeable paving. They got a 1,000 square foot garden on the roof, and electric automatic shades. They used a lot of recycled materials in a lot of the areas. There are recycling centers all over the place. And as I said, people are really proud of the building. And so I think it's a really great project to point to others people as an example of like a really environmentally sustainable building that is really exciting architecture. And it's not done yet. They're still working on a LEED certification. They're still working on getting their solar panels. And so I think it's a great building. I'm really impressed. Anybody here from, there you guys are, excellent. Very nice, very, very well done. All right. Where'd John go? And the awards are.
while the photography is going on, I like this whole thing about the less sick time. Does that mean more overtime? No. Hi, Mike. Okay, good. And can you imagine reading the contract document, part of the specification dealing with materials, and the repetitive nature controlling the materials and execution of a big ass fan? They'd have to say it like 5 times in the specification. And don't get too comfortable sitting down, because we're going to close with something that we haven't done before. We've had a Chrysanthemum Award in the past, and this year the brainchild of several committee members decided to initiate a People's Choice Award. And in partnership with Walnut Creek Magazine, they published a link where you could go on site, and I'm sure a lot of you found it, and voted for the People's Choice Award of all the projects. And this year, the People's Choice Award goes to the Central Costa Costa Sanitary District for their facility. And this time, because we are 20 minutes ahead of schedule, I would like a representative to say a couple of words about their project.
Thank you. Well, I think a lot's already been said, so I appreciate the kind words. Just as a matter of history, that site, if you're familiar with it, it's right below the Diablo Magazine building on Springbrook Road, was our original headquarters in 1950. There was a 50-style building there that we used for many, many years. And then we moved to Martinez and built a new building, but we left our collection system folks there because that's the center of our district. And what our collection people do is they go out and clean your sewers. You might see trucks driving around with our logo on the side, and they're actually flushing the sewers to keep the flow going down to Martinez. So we looked at relocating to Martinez, but we determined that it's much more cost effective to keep our people in Walnut Creek. And so we decided to make that investment. And we're so happy that we did that. And we're so thankful for the support we got from the Planning Commission, Design Review, and also Jeremy LaCorco, who kind of held our hand through the whole process. I'm sorry he's not here to acknowledge, but he's a great staff person at Walnut Creek. So thank you very much. We're very proud of the award, and we hope to work closely with Walnut Creek in the years to come.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And this just goes to show how important the environment is to Walnut Creek in taking the grand award for this year's ABC. In closing, on behalf of the Action for Beauty Council, I want to thank John King for raising the bar of the Master of Ceremonies position and joining us today. We hope to have you back, John, next year. And again, I want to thank all our sponsors for helping make this event possible. And I also want to thank Walnut Creek TV for filming today's event. And it will air. The air dates will be Monday, October 22nd at 8 p.m. and Thursday, October 25th at 5 p.m. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate the awards recipients. Plan to join us next year, and if Cindy Silva has run a council as fast and as efficient as we have run this year's program, she's hired forever. Y'all get to go back to work and actually finish a day. Thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you next year. Bye.